Welcome to the Blue Talks stage for North Shipping 2025. My name is Craig Eason. I'm a quite long in the tooth technology correspondent and writer. I work at TradeWinds, and I've been covering a lot of the topics that we're going to be discussing over the next 2.5 days on this Blue Talk stage. I don't know if you've looked at the program, but there are a lot of different topics that we will be touching on during those 2 days. So look at the schedule and you'll be able to see what it is that you're going to be able to benefit from coming here. You can grab a coffee and come here. We're going to do something a little bit special this morning or this afternoon, and I'm going to introduce the panel in a second because what I'm trying to do, and this is something I've tried to do with the Blue Talks before, is distill some of the conversation that we have up in the leadership conference down onto the stage so that we can then take that around the conference, around the exhibition hall, so that conversation can really germinate and become quite granular in what we're able to do, because I think it's quite important when we hear these high-level conversations, and we're going to have some of that conversation now with John Kerry and Forrest and Andreas, and we're going to be listening a bit more about the SMI, the Sustainable Markets Initiative. We're going to be hearing about that from a kind of high level, but I'm going to try and drill down and get a little bit more granular here, so that when you go around this exhibition and you see what's going on, you'll be able to sort of take that passion that they've got, you'll be able to take that commitment that they're trying to demonstrate and talk about it with everybody else around here. So with that in mind, could we play that short video now, please? As soon as it's played, can I ask our panelists to come up? But I'm also going to ask Jennifer here in a second just to explain a little bit about what the Sustainable Markets Initiative is. But if we could play that short video, please.
Five years ago, it was general consensus in industry that decarbonizing deep-sea shipping was almost impossible. Now, I think we know exactly what to do.
There is an absolute urgent need to change.
That's why we are now changing the game.
The green energy industry, that technology is rising rapidly.
Emission reduction in shipping in the long term has to be around zero carbon fuels.
That is obviously the future of shipping. Green energy is going to take over the world.
This is probably our biggest innovation ever. It's the first vessel in its segment that will be ready to run on clean ammonia.
So if you get a good governance structure around this, it can attract very large amounts of capital very quickly, and it can be efficiently employed.
Let's act for our shareholders, let's act for our families, and we do that by going completely green. We should be transitioning straight into green fuels. That's where you should invest. That will protect the future of the planet.
Stop talking about why this was difficult and try to figure out how to get it done.
Andreas, thank you. Now, what we're going to discuss here, incidentally, after this Blue Talk, we've got another Blue Talk, and Andreas is basically, he's roped himself into doing 2 back-to-back Blue Talks. He's going to be on this stage now probably for about an hour and a half, so we'll see what he's like at the end of it, if he needs any water and gets dehydrated. Gentlemen, before I do sort of dig into some of the comments actually that you made during the leadership conference here, I want to sort of tap into that to distill this, because a lot of the audience here weren't there, but these are the people who are in this exhibition on that granular level. As I said, I'm going to introduce here Jennifer Jordon. Jennifer is CEO of what you just saw there, the Sustainable Markets Initiative. Andreas and Höegh Autoliners are effectively not the first, but certainly the first Norwegian shipping company that's joined the SMI, I believe. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that, but maybe just a quick question that I've got for you, Jennifer. Could you tell me a little bit about what the SMI is and what you're trying to achieve? Because I think it's quite important when we look at how we've got sort of senators and people from a policy-making world and the business world stood on the stage together. So tell me a little bit about what you do at the SMI. Sorry, the microphone's... Try again.
Yes. Okay, great. So the SMI was started by His Majesty King Charles III in 2020, and his view is that to reach the ambitious goals that the UN set for decarbonization, for the SDGs, as we see behind us here, governments alone don't have enough capital to actually achieve them. We're talking at the time from going from billions to trillions, and already we're seeing last year $2 trillion going into the transition for clean energy. So we've made that shift from billions to trillions, but it absolutely has to happen with the private sector. So the SMI brings together over 20 different industry and financial task forces, all at CEO level, and we engage in what we call private sector diplomacy. So we bring CEOs together with world leaders to take rapid decisions to accelerate a sustainable future in every single industry. And we're really delighted to be here today for shipping.
Now, the companies that sign into this, they have the Terra Carta that they have to. This is an 18-page document that I went through yesterday, and it goes into detail and a lot of promises that the companies have got to make. Now, just tell me, what's the main purpose of the Terra Carta? Is it something that Andreas has got to live up to now?
It's a non-binding 18-page document, but it has a number of articles that were really, again, inspired by His Majesty's vision on how the private sector can achieve this. So it gives thoughts and inspirations as a roadmap for the private sector, like how you can help us lead, how you help the whole world lead in a range of different areas, and principles like, putting nature at the heart of the economy. It's like default sustainable, things that you can do as a company, how you shift your business model. So it gives some practical ideas. It's non-binding, but it gives some level of inspiration, but it fully aligns with the UN, a range of different UN commitments as well. So we're trying to make sure the private sector is aligned and aware of what the public sector has committed to.
So now, Andreas, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. You just didn't know I was going to do it right at the start of the talk, did you? What are you going to change now that you've become a signatory to the SMI and you've gone through that 18-page Terra Carta? What's the next thing? Okay, you can tick a lot of those boxes. Ammonia, tick. We're doing this, tick. What's the next big thing that you need to achieve to feel that you are online to be, following the Terra Carta's principles?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in our business is still to have initiated and continue that drive to deliver zero carbon transportation. That's the main thing, and SMI is providing a fantastic ground with lots of important people from around the world that have the same commitment. It's a way to get the message out. His Majesty is clearly a great convener and uses that power very effectively to bring together the right people. And we're just a small company trying to do big things, so we need lots of friends and helpers to get that done. And this is one of the arenas when we get that. And then I guess we will have a cool announcement at the end that is another dimension that we're talking about how to deal with our new ships. We're also going to put in a few comments on what we do with the really, really old ones that are not allowed to continue polluting.
But let's talk about what you're doing then and these ships that you've got. I went out to see one of them that was being delivered, but it's being delivered with LNG. I mean, let's be honest, you're pretty anti-LNG, aren't you?
You noticed.
Yeah.
Nice.
So tell me about this transition, and I'm going to ask you about your opinion about the transition, not the particular molecules, but the transition. But first, Andreas, tell me about why you are transitioning the way that you've decided to.
I mean, I think the very simple and clear thing, we needed to start a fleet renewal program. And those vessels are designed to use ammonia from the start. The tanks are ammonia classed. The engines are ammonia convertible. But in order to get those vessels on the water, we will fuel that line with LNG until we actually get the kit from MEN it's a 8-vessel program. The last 4 are going to deliver with dual fuel ammonia propulsion from the start. The other ones have exactly the same configuration, but they need to put in a fuel system and cylinder tops that are not yet made, right? And in order to get these vessels on the water and to get this started, and at the end it will actually allow us to, all of these vessels can be converted by 2030. So we are basically creating a situation where we can have more than 100,000 cars in the water shipped with clean ammonia around 2030. If we are able to get the IMO and all the other things we're going to talk about in case, right? Because we cannot underwrite the full cost, but we think we're moving in the right direction. We believe it will happen, and we have decided to be ready to get it done.
Yeah.
And to start now, we would have to, from 2027 onwards, the first ammonia engine is going to be delivered to yard in 2026, going to be on the water in 2027, and from there on it's ammonia.
Will you run them on ammonia, even if it's more expensive in 2027? Because there won't be any carbon price, but will you run them on ammonia, or will you just secretly run them on diesel? And just keep an ammonia tank filled ready in case?
But I think this is an impossible question, because as a ship owner, we cannot run a fuel that the customer is not willing to pay for. But I think it will start at another end, because we get lots of excitement by having these vessels on the water in 2027. We're already in dialogue with customers on, which products, which trade lanes they are going to introduce this low carbon transportation. So I think we will start using ammonia. We will probably need some time to scale up. Yes, we will start using ammonia in 2027, and we will scale up as fast as the market allows, and we will do everything we can to also to work and solicit support to make sure that we get the IMO structure in place and accelerates it so that it will get done.
And Andrew, if I could turn to you, because you're putting your money where your mouth is as well, aren't you? You've got one vessel that you converted, I think it was a conversion, to demonstrate ammonia, but you're bringing on board some Bocimar Newcastle Maxes that are going to be ammonia dual fueled, if I got that right?
Yeah, we are completely committed to the progress of ammonia as a pollution-free, environmentally nature-positive fuel. And look, just on your comment on gas, I mean, I'd be totally happy with LNG as a molecule if it didn't destroy the planet. If we get away from that fine print, we'd be all in. Another thing why I like ammonia is that I can't make LNG out of nothing. I can't make it out of energy from solar and wind and just water and air, but I can make it out, can just use those free ingredients and make ammonia. So the cost is coming down, and yes, we are completely committed to a pollution-free fleet as soon as we possibly can, and we're putting our money where our mouth is, as you say. We've trialled the first ship. It has a large drivetrain system which is laid out on the deck, so no one has to doubt it. It's there, it's operating, and you can walk around it like a deconstructed hamburger. It's all there for everyone to see. And it really is quite simple. So I see the future of shipping being a fuel which will just never run out, never destroy food, never compete with food, never compete with organics, which is always going to be valuable to the rest of the organic system and does not want to be sucked up into the shipping industry.
So basically you're fairly anti-biofuels then as well?
Look, biofuels are necessary as a very short-term gap. You can use them in planes, but very short-term. If we even think of the devastation of palm plantations across Africa, palm oil across Papua New Guinea, you fly there and you can fly for almost, well, just say a very long time. And you're flying over this mono ecosystem, affords no nature at all, just one plant. And we do not want to have the shipping industry tarred with that.
And you're also very hot on, I'm going to turn to you in a minute, Secretary Kerry, because I want to talk about the policies here. But just one last point on that is the investment that you've done in Fortescue to sort of change the way that you're operating the company. He was on a podcast recently, Covering Up podcast. I heard you on that podcast.
Okay.
And you were talking about your investment in a British company with battery power.
Yeah.
And you have put a lot of money into this, and you've expanded the workforce in this company because you're focusing on storage, energy storage here, so that you can then, because you're electrifying your mining equipment. I know this isn't strictly speaking, but I think it kind of demonstrates something here. It's not strictly speaking shipping, but it demonstrates something here. You're taking the modern technology and seeing where you can go with it and applying it in massive structures, massive scale, aren't you?
That's all true. We bought the old Williams Advanced Engineering, which was a top Formula One performing global team. Really, because their electrification and battery storage systems, they were breaking new ground all the time. They had a couple of hundred engineers. We've now got over 1,000. And we still make their drivetrains for the fastest cars in the world. So I'm seeing Formula E racing all around the world. It's only going to be a matter of time before Formula E is bigger than Formula One. That's driving technology advancement through cutthroat competition on the racetrack. And we're taking that technology and applying it to the hyper end of town. Trains, trucks where the wheels come up to there, carry 300 tons on their back. And that tech is pushing heavy industry to go green. And we're proving that we can do it and applying it ourselves in our own hot operations. And it's critical. Our trucks go around the world autonomously but dirty 1.5 times a day.
Yeah.
So those trucks have got to be green. And then, of course, when we go green, the other big mining companies, they're going to have to follow. I mean, otherwise they'll see the non-following in their share price. So really the mining industry, which is considered to be the laggard, could well go first in the world.
Yeah.
And that'll be a lesson to all heavy industry.
Now, you're both supporters of the SMI, and we heard that it is sort of pushing that sort of private sector industry to, as you said, Andreas, to sort of work together more, to learn from each other, cross-sector learning, etc., and then to bring in the policy makers. And this is what I want to bring your thoughts in here, because a minute ago in the leadership stage, you were quite scathing about some countries, particularly your own, that seem to have become laggards, for want of a better word from my part there. But how important is it going to be to see people like this standing up to the policymakers and saying, look, business can do this, why can't you do it as well?
Well, excuse me, it's absolutely critical. I mean, it's critical leadership. What Jen and the Sustainable Markets Initiative are doing and have done is bring corporate leaders to the table, CEOs. And frankly, you know, King Charles, who appeared in the video, doesn't get enough credit for his leadership. He started that. He started the SMI, he started the effort to do the Terra Carta. And that's what we need. We need people who are going to stand up and say this is the way to go. When you have a corporate leader who is known to be and is extremely successful, managing a company the size of Fortescue, moving as much ore as he is every single day, fueling real life business competitive choices all around the world, and he suddenly says, look, we're going to change. We're not going to be hypocritical about this. It is a problem. We can be a solution to the problem. We're all in. And let me tell you, if we started hearing that more in the United States, you'd see the politics change. Instead of people backing off and backing down and, you know, kind of walking away from the issue in a sense. I've seen that. I mean, we've seen it the last year when we did COP, you know, the COP Glasgow, Sharm el-Sheikh to Dubai. We were seeking consensus among countries, but you know, they don't have the money. I mean, there's not enough money in all the countries of the world to solve this problem. And you can't do to your economies what you'd have to do in order to put money into it. So the only way this works is if the private sector steps up, puts money on the line the way Andrew and some others have done. Shipping, we created something when I was secretary, and I could actually do things by just making a phone call.
You still can.
We got people to step up, companies, the biggest companies in the world, most successful companies in the world, Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, FedEx, Boeing, And companies from Europe, Volvo, and some of the shipping industry, MSC, Yara, others, all came together and said, we're going to actually buy green now, even though it isn't as accessible as it should be, even though the price is going to be a premium, we're going to pay it. We're going to undertake this effort. And the First Movers Coalition, we now have green cement, green concrete. We have ships that are running as Andrews is, changing their propulsion. I'm told by members of the industry that if the industry continues moving forward the way it is now, the entire fleet globally of commercial shipping will turn over in the next 20 years. Wow. And that's happening because the industry is stepping up.
Providing they've got the impetus to replace their tonnage. There's some sectors that are replacing their tonnage. At the moment, the economy is quite good and owners are not replacing tonnage. They're sitting on older tonnage, continuing as they are.
Can I say something to that? Look, you can't micro-manage this. Will there be sloppy places? Yeah, here and there. But let me tell you something. You know this, you all know. There are 8 billion, 100 million plus people on this planet. And they all want energy. They want better lives. They want a crack at decency and of food and so forth. And energy is critical to all of that, writ large. It's food security, it's physical, national security, it's health security. It's all there. And right now we are being shockingly sloppy about how the focus is being taken away from the choices we face there. So, look, this is the most important work in my time. I know that the issues sort of back down a little bit in the eyes of some people. They say, "Oh God, we got Trump now. We don't have to do anything." So some of the big finance companies that had promised it net zero started saying, "Well, we're not going to advertise it. We're not going to talk about our commitments. We're not going to do this." They're backing off. That is not leadership. It's not courageous. And it's exactly the opposite of what other business people are doing. I think in the end, it's going to come around. For the simple reason that if it doesn't, we will be dealing day to day with billions of dollars being taxed and demanded to clean up after the storms. We had 3 storms in America that cost about $260 billion. And last year there were a couple of storms that cost I think it was about 160 or something like that. Is it really smart to spend the money after the event just to clean up the mess when you could have put that money into a tax credit, into an incentive, into something to accelerate this effort? And ultimately, we're going to have to do this, folks. I mean, if you want to survive, if you want to feed people. We already see massive areas where food implosion may take place, where tens of millions of people may not be able to live where they live today, and they start moving up and banging on the door of Europe, where there are trees and water and security. It's just so obvious. It's shocking to me that more people aren't sort of crying, emergency, emergency, we've got to do something.
You used a phrase there that I know you, half an hour ago, both of you railed against it actually, but you certainly, Andrew.
Thank you.
Net zero. You don't like that term.
Yeah, look, my simple bottom line as a scientist have watched that word net get shoved into the lexicon by the fossil fuel sector in order to allow, if you like, the sweet, longer producers to stay in business forever, so their customers could set off their pollution. It hasn't worked. Bottom line, we've had the greatest escalation of temperature in history, and outstripping that by a very long way is the greatest acceleration over thousands of years of humidity, which we're just not wired to handle. So I simply say this: when a fossil fuel producer speaks to the IMO, I just want to say, you don't have any credibility to talk to us. You are just a fuel supplier, like a cruise supplier or spare parts supplier, the cargo pays the way of the global shipping industry. It's the cargo which is the top dog here. And the cargo is saying to us, we don't want to destroy the planet by giving our customers what they need. We need you, energy producers, not to come to the IMO or forums like this and say, you got to buy a fatal fuel. No, we want the cargo owners to get what they're asking for, and that is their cargo delivered from one side of the world to the other without destroying the planet, which means fossil fuel producers, that's letting us down. If you're not going to produce the energy we need, then the shipping industry is going to have to do it for themselves. And don't underestimate our will.
Yeah.
I've seen this happen before when big vendors have been there forever, think they're so big they can't topple, and then they fall.
And Secretary Kerry, you're against that phrase as well. Earlier today, you were also quite sort of critical of organisations and even countries using net zero in that sort of cavalier way.
I'm not critical if their plan is real to achieve it. Great. The problem is, look, you don't want to be terrifying people and telling them things that they just can't comprehend and wrap their hands around and go out and do something with in day-to-day life. So there's a hard balance here, folks. But here's the reality, and science will absolutely underscore what I'm saying. If you get to net zero, it's net. It's balanced out against other carbon, which is still being produced. That's what creates the net, or it's being offset, whichever. Offsetting can move people to actually make progress in reductions. But look, just what we have put up in the atmosphere to this date, right now, requires that even if we get to net zero, we will have to pull out of the atmosphere more than 1.6 trillion tons of carbon in order to prevent continued damage from what we've been doing. So I've usually been in the all of the above possibilities for now. For instance, if somebody comes to me and they say, well, I can get off of coal and I can get off of oil and but I'm going to use gas to do it, that's a 30 to 50% reduction on the emissions of what you're phasing out. But you get to 2030, and if you're not able to capture that gas, there's no way in hell you're going to get to 2050 net anything.
Yeah.
So the gas industry has a moment of confrontation down the road here. Capture. I hear a lot of execs say to me, well, we're going to do carbon capture, and we'll do storage. Well, they may be in a different political system I am, but we have 2,000 gigawatts of electricity backed up at our Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. 2,000 gigawatts. Why? Local politics. They don't want to give the permitting. They don't want, So if we don't bust that kind of thing around the world, by the way, there's a huge restraint on our deployment of technologies we have because of the lack of permitting. And then not in my backyard. I don't want to do that. And so if we succumb to that, again, it's going to be really hard to get where we need to go. But if somebody can capture and store, I'm not telling them, okay, you don't have a useful life conceivably going forward. I just don't think it's going to be doing. If you talk to people at Stanford, Harvard, MIT, who spend a lifetime analyzing this, I haven't met one of them who says we're going to be able to do carbon capture and storage at scale and at an affordable rate that people are going to be competitive. Now, if we do some carbon capture today, we use it in enhanced oil production in North Dakota, other places. There's uses you can put it to. Some people are working very hard to try to figure out how to take carbon and make fuel out of it and make clean fuel out of it. I'm all for exploring all of that, including small modular nuclear reactors, large fusion in my state, Massachusetts. We have Commonwealth Fusion. They are building a huge plant. They think they're 3-4 years away from providing commercial electricity out of this fusion process. Wow, that's a game changer. China has now developed a sodium-ion battery that is conceivably going to create firm energy within the next couple of years, which means energy that you can't lose if you have no wind or no sun. You have battery power that will provide the bridge and to balancing out your grid. That's a total game changer. So the power sector, I think, will be electric and purely and pretty much carbon-free sooner than a lot of other places. But heavy industry, steel, wind, these are tougher nuts to crack.
I might just swing back to your point, just to endorse what John is saying. As an ecologist, you're also a statistician. If something fails 19 out of 20 times, no matter how much you market it to politicians, it's a statistical failure. And my simple point is, if you've got the technology, ladies and gentlemen, to stop burning fossil fuel, that's called real zero. You don't need to net off anything. You just stop burning fossil fuel because, as John pointed out, you've got these alternatives now and they're either economic or becoming economic. You have got to take those. If you say, no, I'm going to buy fossil fuel, then I'm going to put the poison down the ground, I just want to say this. In eyesight of my home, you've got the Wheatstone project, one of the biggest carbon capture storages in the world. It's a disaster. They got a social license to build that project saying they were going to capture. They haven't captured 25%. Now, if you're going to say to your child who's, say, fatally ill, like paradoxically everyone here with accelerating global heating, here's a medicine you can take which may or may not work. It's failed most times. It's called carbon capture and storage medicine. And you're likely to die. But hey, let's give it a crack. And the kid looks at you like you've gone nuts and says, is there any other? And we'll say, yeah, well, you could go to real zero. We could actually stop burning fossil fuel. Oh, and that works, by the way. That is a guaranteed medicine to fix you. Then we are completely smoking high-grade fossil fuel drugs if we stick to this word net and believe carbon capture failed storage is the solution. I hear it trotted out all the time. It's been trotted out for 70 years, by the way. I hear it trotted out all the time, simply waiting for the next idiot to come along to believe it. All the other idiots finally changed their mind over the last 7 decades. But someone will come along and say, I'll approve that project. Sounds really good to me. We can keep burning oil and gas and shove the poison down the ground and think it'll stay there commercially. Look, we don't want to bet our planet on something which is utterly unreliable when we've got an alternative which is utterly reliable, and that's just switching off fossil fuel, going real zero. And that's why my company, 1 billion litres of diesel a year, is going to switch it all off by 2030. I mean, don't say it can't be done. We're doing it.
Andreas?
Because I've been to these debates now for a couple of years, and everybody says that first ammonia is impossible, and it's also, and now we know it's possible. We've already ordered the engines; they come with warranties and everything, and we have fuel producing. We know again exactly what to do. And then they throw in that it's going to be so expensive. We need to invest $2 trillion by 2050 to get it done. We're investing $3 trillion a year in the global energy system. Actually, if we just take our 3%, we all agree that we need to invest more to save the planet. But actually, just investing our share of the energy system investments would actually get us there. I mean, we need to do more to do it faster. But
hell of a step.
But it's just first they take the technical card and it's gone, and then they put up a huge number, which is actually still a fraction of what we invest in traditional energy every year. So I think we need to get to a point where this is a question of whether we have the guts to do it or not. It's not a engineering or technical problem. It's not a fuel supply. Fuel supply will come and demand is created. And the IMO is starting on their process to make sure that demand is coming, and the money is not. I mean, it's not a big number in the context of the global economy.
I think that's a really brilliant point. I mean, where I hear often economists which are funded by the oil and gas sector trot this out. It's going to take $2 trillion. We're never going to be able to do it to convert. And then you hear that stat, yet we're smoking $3 trillion a year. We know we can afford it. It just takes leadership.
And an allocation of that money in the right channel. You're going to add.
Well, I was just going to point out that the idiocy, so where we are, further. The gas-fired combined cycle turbine is backed up at least 5 years in its production. So people are selling the idea we're going to be there to do these AI centers and we'll provide the energy, but right now they can't. The only way you can do it today is quickly, is solar and wind. And solar and wind are so much cheaper than fossil fuel anywhere in the world. And you have, I think, 90% reduction in the cost of solar, and it's still improving as the vast amounts are called for. China, as we know, they're not about to put the engine of their economy is, really at stake here, totally at risk. And they care, they got 1.4 billion people, and the government there is totally focused on survival of the regime, and they do whatever they need. But they don't want the people rebelling the way they were beginning to 10 years ago over the quality of water, the quality of air, and that's one of the reasons why they've changed. So they're now moving full speed ahead. What does President Xi know that President Trump doesn't know? Oh wait, I shouldn't have asked that. But clearly something.
Yeah.
And leaders all around the world. Why aren't other leaders pulling out? Why aren't other people saying we are? Because they know how bloody stupid it is.
But isn't this also a case where you've got a lot of countries, the global south as we call it, they're the ones that have got the sunshine and significant amount of wind. That's where you're going to be able to make the renewable electricity, to make the hydrogen, to make the ammonia, and so on and so on. It's those countries that need the resources. It's those countries that need the financing to be channeled there, isn't it? So you need to find a way, and this is why I'm asking about the sort of the policy makers to make sure that that money, whether it's private or public money, whether it's from a multinational bank or whether it's from private, actually gets to the places that can actually generate that cheap electricity to generate the fuel.
But with respect to the power sector, you can now negotiate almost anywhere a decent PPA, which will give you a return on investment, totally market competitive, for 20 years, which would take us way down the road here while the rest of these tech come on. So it just from a basic, fundamental business point of view, and I've been in government a lot of my life, but I've learned enough about business on the finance committee and the banking committee and chairman of the small business committee to understand how you make judgments about where you put money. And you either put it where it's going to get the fastest, biggest return on investment if you hit it, or the most conservative, regular return, or somewhere in between. That's it. That's the range. And so you can actually bet on how people are going to respond to these opportunities to make money actually greening this process. They just don't want to do it. They got too much power being spent in advertising, green advertising. Green gas is being advertised in America now. Mark Twain had a wonderful saying that a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth gets its boots on. And that's where we are in this world of instant communication and everything. So who are the truth referees? We're losing them in too many parts of the world. And so you are. We all have to stand up and let the science speak for itself. We kind of gave up this battle. We didn't. But in 1755, when the Lisbon earthquake took place in Europe, the great philosophers, Immanuel Kant and Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Francois Voltaire, debated all around Europe whether what happened to Portugal was the result of a vengeful God creaming them because they weren't living the right lifestyle. They actually debated this for ages. And then the age of reason and the age of enlightenment did away with that. Science was accepted, and people understood the value of heeding science. And we went to the moon. We did a vaccine for, for COVID. We stopped Ebola in its tracks in West Africa. I mean, we do things brilliantly, we humans, when we put our mind to it. We're just not putting our minds to it. People are diverted, and people are seduced to some other place.
Moving on from the great philosophers.
Well,
we've only got about 9 minutes left. I just want to bring this back to the sort of the maritime and the shipping angle. We've got regulations that are coming up soon, and I want to touch on the regulations, what happened in April and what needs to happen in October. But did you have something else to add just before then?
No, I think that because I think that is now the missing link, and I'm with all we've discussed now, I think we can conclude that in addition to the mindset, that is only the missing link.
Yeah.
And we've got a result from IMO in London now that just needs to be approved in October. We can all argue that it goes too slow, it should have more teeth, whatever, but it is creating trajectory.
Yeah.
And we just need to get it through. We already have from the first vote, all the major cargo-owning countries are in on this now.
Just bring a bit of an issue with that first vote, because that first vote was brought to the table by effectively the petrostates. They were objecting. I was in the building just listening and just following everything that was going on that week. And you probably know this as well. So there was all of this discussion going on in the working group, and all of a sudden you just knew that there was something going on. And then the US walked out.
US walked out.
And not only did they walk out, I got sent an email that the delegations got sent by the US administration. Basically, the US administration had made a tacit threat to any nation that impacted US shipping with a carbon policy.
Yeah.
Right?
But doesn't that actually demonstrate the strength of the commitment? Because now you actually got an agreement where, China, Korea, Japan, India, all the important, cargo source in Asia voted in favor. EU, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand. The point is that you already have an agreement there that if all these countries are willing to engage their port state control authorities to basically make sure this happens, it will be as effective as the IMO 2020 on sulfur, which happened like this, right? But you just need to then... So actually, in terms of having the right scope for this vote, and the fact that there was some pressure to do otherwise, I think, underpins the commitment of those who did. The only thing you need is to then get it through the formal voting system with the 2/3 and get the island nations and all the others that will benefit from this on board. And
two-thirds of the Marpol signatories need to vote yes for it to actually pass through. The Pacific Islanders, notably abstained because they could abstain in April during that vote. They have to be convinced to vote yes. So the two questions that I've really got is, how do we make sure that we get that vote over the line? And Secretary, how do we ensure that the US doesn't try to disrupt things underneath all of that and start sending out nasty letters again?
Well, I can't assure that, and most of the people, from prior administrations and so forth, are not able to do it. This administration does not base its decision on facts. It doesn't want to do it because it has a different idea about what it wants to do with these next 4 years. And it wants to be disruptive. By choice, is beating up on relationships externally because they think that solidifies and plays with their base at home. It's raw politics. It's lowest common denominator politics. It is dangerous for our country, for my fellow citizens, but it's dangerous for the world. And I'm sorry that so many of you from other countries that are behaving unbelievably responsibly and are trying to carve out the future are negatively impacted by this. But this will pass. As I said earlier today, even while President Trump was president in the first term, 75% of the new electricity in our country was renewable. And 37 governors continued to apply their renewable portfolio laws. And now 90% of the electricity in America that's new is coming from renewables. So while he pulled out of the Paris Agreement, the American people actually stayed in. And so it's less than we want to get to because we need to move faster, but it's not going to end all participation and all efforts. Just not going to happen. Texas, which has 3 Republican political figures leading it, Governor Abbott, Republican, and the 2 senators, Republicans, is the largest wind deployed in the United States of America. So there are a lot of people still acting on the basis of common sense and science, and I think we just have to plow through it. Not get excited every single day something stupid is announced, because something stupid is going to be announced almost every single day for the next period of time. But not all of that, folks, is going to change our ability to get things done, like the IMO, like these other things we do internationally. And by the way, we will prove by doing those things the value of multilateralism. And if you didn't have it, you'd have to invent it. And trust me, this administration, you want to get an Iran nuclear agreement, you want to get Israel and Gaza resolved, you're ultimately going to have to get multilateral engagement to do it.
I just say very clearly to everyone here, please don't tolerate a no vote or an abstain vote from the country you're from. It's really irresponsible. You don't lose, and you've got so much to win. To shipbuilders and ship owners, I just want to say this. The cargo pays the way. Ship owners need people like us. We ship around 25 million tonnes ourselves in our own ships, and we ship another 175 million tonnes in other people's ships. But we'll ship no tonnes in any ship whatsoever who doesn't obey the IMO regulations. And the ports which we speak to will start to pull back on even allowing ships in who don't obey the IMO regulations. So this is going to pick up a head of steam, and as the cargo pays the way, the cargo owners want to go green. We don't want ship owners and petrostates telling us what our fuel ought to be. We want fuel which powers our ships and is at least nature neutral and not, or if not nature positive. That's nitrogen as an emission. You don't get that from anything else but ammonia.
Good. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We're coming to an end, and that gives me a chance to introduce Andreas Enger again.
Yes, and we are now going to move from what we are doing with our new vessels to how we're going to move from recycling to upcycling on the vessels that are not going to be allowed to pollute. So I would ask Sebjørn and John to come up and just announce the new way of recycling ships.
Good man.
Okay, thank you.
They put it up.
Thank you for the introduction, Andreas. As you know, we like to talk about new technology and how to turn around and be green in the future. But doing that, you're looking back on what you have present in the fleet. And in Höegh Autoliners, as all other shipping companies, we have a number of vessels who have been sailing for a number of years. Typically, a car carrier is built for 30 years. And when that particular vessel is reaching 30 years of age, you either have to do something with the vessel so you can extend the certificate, or you have to scrap it. And if you scrap it, and now I use that word by purpose, then it's basically a mountain of waste. And it's regulated. You cannot do whatever you want with that waste. And for us, with such big vessels, it's only one opportunity or one option today. We cannot take it out of EU because then it's an export of waste. So we have to chop it up somewhere in Europe. And the only place we can do that now is in Turkey. And that is done in a green way. It's certified, it's done in the proper way, but it's chopped up and the steel is brought to a steel mill where it's melted. So it's a kind of old-fashioned way of recycling or scrapping a vessel. So we realized when we are talking about our green efforts in Höegh Autoliners, we have to do something here as well. It's not enough only to build new vessels for the future. We have to take care of the old vessels. And then we are a small company, as Andreas said. We have to find the right partners, and we have to do that with somebody. Being member of the First Movers Coalition, bringing in very, very, very good partners, building our Aurora class, we have learned that partnership is the way forward. You cannot do it alone. You have to do it together with right partners. So we were super happy when a year ago we partnered up with the Nordic Circle and my friend John here. And we are here to celebrate. And we will launch now the idea how do we take care of the old ladies running out of lifetime, ready to be upcycled. So, John, maybe you can explain what we intend to do.
I will try.
Yeah. 22.
We're not that fan of the word waste. So we found a new one. We call it upcycling.
You heard you.
So basically what we do is we take in the ships, instead of shredding them and destroying the steel for melting, we dismantle it and we take care of all the steel plates and we place them into buildings. We actually are right now building an 8-floor high building in Norway, and you can remove all the CO2 emissions in it. And as you know, the building industry stands for 40% of the CO2 emissions in the world, and they are not allowed to keep on doing that. So when we can provide them with actually maritime steel to make buildings, it's a game changer for them. And it's also a game changer for the yards, because they will then have the financing they need to compete and be sustainable businesses in Europe, so yards can do decommission of the big ships in Europe. So we are actually here to celebrate. I think it's a fantastic way. Just imagine that old ships become fantastic, green, environmentally friendly buildings instead of being scrapped. Isn't that fantastic? We must celebrate it.
And this is nothing we look at or want to do in the future. Our ambition is to do this already next year. We will find a suitable vessel, and we will do this. And maybe sometime in the near future, you will sit in an office building built with steel from a Höegh Autoliners vessel, super green. A reduction of 97% CO2 doing this. So it's a fantastic project, and you just have to stay tuned. It will come more.
Can I just say one last thing?
Yeah.
That it's fantastic with simple projects. Höegh Autoliners is not into simple projects, so we haven't made an agreement with one ship. If we make it, we're gonna do how many ships? 8 ships. So this is a game changer, actually not only for Norway, but for Europe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Love it.
Okay, very good.
Good.
Thank you.
I was meeting Oliver Weiss at Liebherr in Munich at
Well done, sir.
Bamas Fair.
Yeah.
And I saw your autonomous dumper and
We'll have the next talk in about 5 minutes.